So this is your third film as a director, correct? And your second in animation. I have that right?
That's right.
How has the experience for you changed over the years? Especially, it's been a while since you worked on Over the Hedge.
Yeah, where the tools are a lot better now.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, every year, the advances in what computers can do are, certainly allow you to make a film that looks as good as this does, I think. The fundamentals of storytelling sort of never change, and even the basics of animation, all the people that I work with in animation are still chasing the masters, the Disney masters, precedents that were set in the 30s. So all of those key poses and really the pioneers of this art form, those are still studied today. So that doesn't change. But the world that you can create with the use of computers, there are some shots in this movie that I just think are just jaw-dropping. And especially if you know how difficult they are to create, I think movie-going audiences, not to insult them, but they all just kind of take it for granted. Like, oh yeah, that's a Yeti standing in a snowstorm and his hair's blowing like crazy. It's like, you have no idea the amount of math that is happening right now.
Right.
To make that look like that. So, and I gotta be honest, most of the time, neither do I. Because there are loads of people who I just say, here's what I want it to look like. And then they go figure out how to do it. And they shield me from how complicated it is.
Right. They almost make it look easy.
They don't. Yeah. Well, they don't want to disappoint me, and they don't want to come back and say, we can't get you that. What they want to do for them is for me to go, oh, wow, guys, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
Then that was a good week for them, So the fundamentals of storytelling are the same from story to story. And, I've been doing this, this will be my 30th year of working professionally. So it was, I guess about 30 years ago that I started working on Rescuers Down Under.
Right.
And the problems that you face in cracking a story never change. I haven't directed a movie since Imagine That, because I went off and then kind of did some other things in theater, and it was nice to be back telling people what to do. That's something that comes really naturally to me.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. You had a really great team on your side here, especially, I wanted to pay special attention to the voice cast. You managed to gather just an incredible voice cast by my estimation. How did you do it? How did you get so many high-profile people involved?
The real honest answer is we just asked.
Sounds easy.
And I guess that's one of the perks of making a movie with a major studio that has a lot of relationships. And also we had some test footage of what the animation would look like. Mm-hmm. But I think this is what's fun about this movie. You kind of know that you're onto something good when you tell people, hey, they say, what are you working on? I'm working on an animated movie called Smallfoot.
Right.
They go, oh, what's that about? Hey, it's Bigfoot in reverse. And they all go, oh, that's good. So without fail, everybody was like, oh, that's good. And especially people that I work with, where it's like, because they know that that's a good premise. It's a fun premise. It's a fun point of view switch. Fortunately, everyone that we pitched to had a similar reaction. A lot of times you have to catch people at the right time in their life. Fortunately for me, my first meeting with Channing, I was a little bit like, okay, I have no idea what he's like. I don't know if he's going to be too cool for the room. I really didn't know. And he's such a good guy and so unaffected, by any celebrity or anything like that.
Oh, totally.
And the first words out of his mouth, dude, I have to say to you, I went and saw Over the Hedge before I had kids, and that's one of my favorite movies. And Hammy is one of my all-time favorite animated characters.
Oh, wow!
So I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be a good pitch, because he started with some, as a fan, as opposed to me going, well, I really love all the stuff you've done. So Zendaya really wanted to be a voice in an animated movie. James Corden, again, had seen my Broadway show and really liked it. And so he was predisposed to kind of want to be involved. Common, it was actually Zendaya's agent and had the same agent as Common. And it was Common really wants to meet with you guys and be a part of this.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah. Gina was the same. Gina Rodriguez is really great. LeBron, we approached his manager, and we met with his manager first, as his manager's name is Maverick, which I always thought when you're LeBron James, that's what your manager has to be named.
And not to be
Maverick.
confused with Maverick, a co-host of Cinemaholics. Not joking.
No. And Maverick was like, "Oh no, it was good for LeBron because he really loves movies and wants to be involved, but he's limited with what he can do because of his basketball season. So doing an animated movie was a way for him to be involved with the movie, but not be so taxing on his schedule, like a live action shoot where you might have to go away for 30 days or even 3 weeks or whatever. So it was doable for him that we could catch him here and there. Yeah, and it's most actors really enjoy doing these because it's kind of playtime. It's like going back to original acting. It's just you in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
With me reading in, playing, really safe. You don't have to worry about how you look, makeup, wardrobe, all that. You can roll out of bed, come in, record. And I think they like being a part of something that, first of all, if they have kids, that their kids can go see, that's nice and clean, has a good message, that it's putting some positivity out into the world. They like being a part of that. And animated movies have a way of sort of living for a long time, especially kids who watch them. They make a really long-lasting impression.
The message is obviously, it's very poignant. It's very clear. Were there any specific events that inspired some of this writing and what you put into it? I know it's also based on Sergio Pablos' book, but how would you talk about the writing in that way?
Well, I do think we were, while we were writing it, it's impossible when you're a writer and a filmmaker not to pay attention to what's going on in the world around you. It was a world where we suddenly found ourselves, we're part of the national conversation. There was a lot of us and them conversations going on in the world, with kind of a migrant crisis and a tendency to kind of get fearful of what that might mean. And kind of create this us and them mentality and to withdraw, into you a little bit, like just being a little bit fearful and uncertain, to withdraw into somewhat of an isolationist. That was certainly going on in the world, and where we realized, it's like, oh, I think this story that we're telling is a stronger allegory than we realized, pretending that we're this island on top of these clouds, and that was a lie perpetrated to keep the two worlds separate. In order to move past that, you kind of have to reach out. You got to communicate. You got to put a face with the group and realize that, to kind of generalize a group is really not the right thing to do. It's not, there's not going to be any progress in that. So not only does that have some sort of, work with what's going on in the world, but it also works with what's going on at my kids' school, of everybody sort of falling into groups. And I always laugh with, because my kids go to a school where the middle school and the upper school are on the same campus, but I hear them talking about, oh yeah, the middle school kids know not to sit at these tables at lunch, and it's sort of like there's an invisible line that the middle school kids know they're not supposed to cross with. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous. And in 3 months, that's going to be a high school kid, and it's like, why is there this, why is it our natural tendency to do this? This happens everywhere, is that we just find comfort in being in the groups that we feel safe with, and the ones that are different invokes this natural sort of fear, the sort of fight or flee tendency that we all tend to have. So, I like that the movie addresses that. There's a key line in the movie, which is, we think they're monsters and they think we are, and we're not going to solve that by hiding from each other.
having seen the film, I totally see exactly what you're saying. It's present. It's right there in the movie. I think people are definitely going to see that when they go and check it out. So one last question for you. You know, on Cinemaholics, we love to review films, not just as critics or anything, but also as fans. And some of us are storytellers like you. So as a storyteller who I can tell is passionate about films, are there any recent films from the last year, maybe last couple of years, that have really stuck out to you? Maybe they relate in some way and inform kind of what you've put together here with your team with Smallfoot.
Well, certainly we watch all the animated movies, and, you know, I have nothing but admiration for the ones that, you know, do it really well. I thought Coco was a really beautiful movie, as was Inside Out, really, and Zootopia. I mean, those three really stood out to me as being sort of, they really got me emotionally. You know, Inside Out, that simple notion of how, with the pressure that we put on our kids to don't cry, don't be sad, that we kind of rob them of the full range of human emotion. And it's like, you can't be happy without experiencing sadness, you know. And Zootopia, and the way it so deftly dealt with prejudice, some similar themes that we're dealing with here. But I also, there was a movie that just came out recently, the one that sort of this year that has impacted me the most, I would say, is the movie Tully.
Love that film.
With Charlize Theron, because it made me really appreciate what my wife went through. You know, we have 3 kids, and the unfair expectations that we place on mothers. That movie just really, really kind of did a number on me for that reason. And I thought it was just really cleverly done. So, you know, I really like and appreciate movies that are about something that we can all take into our lives, that make us examine things. I don't think cinema necessarily needs to be used as a soapbox or pulpit necessarily. I mean, I think storytelling is such a useful tool to get us to think. I heard somebody talk about them as that movies are really empathy-inducing machines when they're done at their best.
Absolutely.
You know, that a movie can go in, and if a movie can make you have empathy for something that you didn't quite have empathy before going into, then that's a pretty special experience.
Thanks for listening. To hear more Cinemaholics, including this episode, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever else you love podcasts. See you next time.